Recently, I played in a one-shot where I died 3 times. And it was super fun. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, and welcome to Dungeon Bits, and today, we're gonna kill your character, but then run through a number of tips to see how we can make it suck less. But speaking of sucking, recently, me and my friends decided to play Vampire the Masquerade, in which I actually got to play. And yes, I really did die 3 times. And for those saying those are rookie numbers, I've played in Funhouse Dungeons before. Well, I made a Ventrue clan vampire who had no blood power but had connections wherever I went. And I got covered in silver dust, staked to death by 30 stakes in the first encounter that carried any sort of risk by the traps laid out by a vampire hunter conspiracy theorist. In the first hour of the game. And this leads me into the first method of recovering from character death. If you think the player in question is pretty good at roleplay and they can improvise in a new situation quickly, well, you can let them take on the role of an NPC. And if hearing that makes you immediately swear off the idea, just bear with me, because doing this gives you a really unique opportunity. While everyone else is confined to the mechanics laid out in the game, if you trust the player, you can give them powers or knowledge that they couldn't get normally. Also, if the player is concerned about not knowing who this NPC is or what their motivation and personality is, you can pull them aside or just text them and tell them exactly what they need to know. Just think of all the narrative opportunities this carries. When my character died, I got to play a random human NPC that another player had grown attached to, and we developed our bromance. And not only that, since I was a guy who lived around this apartment complex, I was more knowledgeable and could help out the other players when they were stuck. Oh, and that character was then killed by a vampire prince to show that they mean business to the players. And then I got to play the vampire prince. They had a lot of power that I could use, like a GM can, to push the players towards the plot. And then, when they went out to carry out the dirty job they were given, I played as a bodyguard to the prince with the power to become super strong. And I also became the hulking boss fight at the end of that session. And just in case you think that by doing this, it makes the session about that player, or it makes them super cool and have more power and fun than the other players, this method must be used by GMs who trust their players, and know that the player just wants to bring fun to the session and cares about the story. Maybe don't do this with Crazy Jeff, who you can't quite bring up the courage to kick them out the group. And yes, I'm aware, this first method is certainly out of the ordinary for some. I like to give the most unheard of or potentially odd stuff first, in case you click away before seeing the rest. Don't do that, but let's cover how to approach the dreaded dead friend scenario. Let's look at this step by step. Firstly, do the players know how likely their character is to die? I highly recommend that at session 0, you establish whether or not your characters are likely to die, because some players play with the understanding that it's basically never gonna happen. Okay, step 1 done. Everyone is on the same page. But now, you can see that the result of an action is the imminent death of a character. What can you do? Well, you could do any number of things. You could have an NPC that the players helped swoop in to give them one more chance, or you could ignore the dice and say that the PC survives. The only thing about these options is that it's hard to pull them off without seeming like you're pulling your punches, and once that's detected, it can cheapen the experience of playing. You've shown the players that even when things are so dangerous that they're about to die, they'll survive. So why care anymore? Instead, if you want their death to feel worthy, it really depends on what game you're playing. Games like D&D and Morkborg will knock you unconscious so the enemies can just stomp on your head while you're down, giving you a merciless death that you can't really escape from. Other games will just kill you outright if your health has completely run out. And some let you go down swinging. Some simple but very cool ways to make your character's death feel more worth it is to give your characters a way to go down in a blaze of glory. Give them one more action to really change things. Maybe you could let the wizard use the last of their magical power to hold the enemy in place, or let the spacefaring smuggler heroically press the airlock to eject the enemies out into space along with them. Or, who doesn't love the cinematic last cigarette dropped into a puddle of gasoline? Failing that, you can at least give the character one last line to give a badass quip, a jokey reflection of their bubbly personality, or confess their undying love to another PC. Then, Once the death has happened, ensure that the players are respectful about the PC's passing, and think about what legacy the world will remember about them. Maybe the townsfolk erect a statue, or a lot more people than expected show up to the funeral, like a whole crowd, or even cooler, name a place or something fun after the character. It can be super small, like if they're really close to a beloved barkeep NPC, that NPC renames the pub or a drink after their name. At first it can really suck, but it's oddly beautiful how you can use death to immortalize the character in a way that they couldn't in life. For good or bad. The session ends and you pull that player aside and say, hey, you died unfortunately, but what if you essentially become the law of my world? 300 years have passed, a new campaign is set, and the players are sent to investigate a disappearance. Then they discover a creature with antlers coming out of every facial orifice and skin stretched over a fattened jaw filled with the teeth stolen from wandering traders. And this creature's name? The White Steward. But to the players, that's Oron, the druid from last campaign. But on the other side of this, to address the obvious, your character's death can really suck. You're invested and you want to see how far your character can go. But it's important to remember that your new character can be even cooler. So, we've covered letting your players be the NPCs, and how to mitigate the sadness of character death. But now, it's new character time. That excitement that you felt the first time is back. So, following character death, what should your new character be? Well, first of all, consider that now you can make them with your gained knowledge of the lore of the world. Your entirely new PC could know about the thing that interested you when you were playing, such as a form of magic, a sci-fi artifact, or they're from a place that you went before and you liked it when you were visiting. Or maybe you make a character based off your time playing in the form of an NPC, because why stop at playing one for the remainder of a one-shot when you could ask your GM if you could be that NPC. This actually happened in a campaign I ran where a character was kidnapped, so the player then played as an NPC who owed their desired education, their title, and great memories to the kidnapped character, with the aim to get them back. And from there, you could keep playing the NPC turned PC, or play the kidnapped character. And of course, you can play as an NPC if your character dies. The NPC you play as is driven to avenge your previous character for all that they owe them. Then, the final idea for today is having your character die, but there's a catch. This isn't the GM just giving you the Mary Sue treatment and saying, oh, you didn't die. Quite the opposite. The GM could pull you aside and make you an offer. A devil or lord of death has taken an interest in your skills and offers you a second chance, but when your second chance is up, they get your body and do whatever they like with it, even wage war or kill your party. So, let your players take on a pseudo GM role until the session ends, maybe consider whether the character will die, and if so, how to do it in a more epic way. And of course, following one character's end, the story just continues with your new awesome character. Thank you for watching. I'm Ellis, and if you like these tips, click the video on screen to see how you can improvise anything for your games. Maybe use it to make the PC's death more morbidly creative. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.